or from here? Everybody hear me okay? I know I need to be here, but I like to move around a little bit. So I will be loud, but hopefully not. Okay, so welcome to my session on Inspector. And you all are very lucky because this is the first public preview of this next version. So you guys are the kind of exclusive audience to this version, and this is a really big deal. So we're really excited because a lot of different changes that we're making. So I have a lot of slides, but I want to show you a quick demo, and then we'll jump in. So this demo is going to be running at twice the speed. So you're going to see it 2 times faster. So we get through it quickly. And it's just basically a demo of our team working in different locations. And so this is Christopher making some account changes. So he deletes an account, he added an account, he modifies an account, and then he runs the integration. He types in a comment, hits return, and off it goes to Inspector. Inspector is on the server, it's going to process it. This is Mercuria. He's making some layout changes to the same file, hosted on the same server as Inspector. And then he also runs the integration, types a comment, hits return, and then it runs on the server. This is Thais. She's one of our developers. She's making some script changes, also doing the same kind of thing, like adding a script, deleting a script, modifying a script. And so we have the different areas of the solution, and then she's also running, putting in a comment. I want you to understand that when you put in a comment and you send it, it's not like it used to be, like where you had to generate the DDR, wait for it to generate, send it to Inspector, wait for it to go. That comment is what you see. That's real, like almost real time, except the speed of the movie is twice as fast. But what I'm saying is it gets out of your way. It gets out of your way as quickly as possible, and it gets it documented on the server. All right, so this is Brendan. He made some schema changes. He added a note to the table occurrence. And then this is me just going in and reviewing. That's the account changes that Christopher did, etc. So and then if we look at the history of analyses, we see Christopher's changes, adding, modification, and deletion right there. Okay, so that's noting his changes. We'll see Mercuria's changes, Thais' changes. Okay, so there's Mercuria's changes. He also added a layout object, made some modifications to the layouts itself. I can explain that later. And then some deletions of some things as well. Okay, so all these these things can be attributed to people now because we have now switched over in Inspector 8 to use save as XML instead of the DDR for a number of reasons, which I'll get into in a little bit. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just reviewing the, if you wish, the commits by the different team members that have submitted their data. This is Brendan's stuff here. I want to point out one thing. He says there's Brendan's. So one thing to note that we never had in the, I don't see it here. But we have some new things in the Save as XML, which I'll go over later. Anyway, this is just a short movie, really quick, to kind of get you seeing the real thing, because I'm going to just do a lot of talking. Okay, so here. All right, so a brief history of Inspector. We'll go over some workflow comparisons, processing comparisons between 7 version before 8, every version before that up until 8, and then 8, compare that in there. We'll do some feature comparisons. I started this work about 3 years ago to convert all my XSLs to support Save as XML, and there was a lot of bugs. There was a lot of bugs with the output in the XML. The output of that XML has different consumers. It's going to be used by the add-on, it's going to be used by the update tool, it's going to be used by consumers third-party developers like myself. And so for that purpose, there's some concerns about the way they output the data that doesn't help us, might help other things. So there are issues that are being looked at, hopefully to improve that. So there's a beta sign up, and in your bag you got a form. There's a QR code, and you can sign up for the beta there. So a brief history of Inspector. So version 4 to 7, we had built a plugin, and with the plugin, all the XSL files were included inside the plugin, and that's the way it was before, right? So in version 4 to 7, we then put 3 to 4, they were inside the plugin. In version 4 to 7, they were in a folder next to the plugin, and that became difficult to install automatically. Like you can install a plugin automatically, but this had to be a manual install. So in version 8, we got rid of that. Now what we're doing is we're writing all the XSLs inside a table in FileMaker, and there's a lot of benefits to doing that. So the plugin is just the plugin. It's still 64-bit, fully threaded, etc. But it's faster for us to iterate and make changes directly to the files that are inside FileMaker. So there's a lot of complexity in those XSLs, and I'm not going to go into no detail there. So it gives us the ability to do on-demand processing. So one thing that the new Save as XML, how many of you use the Save as XML, generate the Save as XML output? Okay, have you looked at it? There's catalogs now, right? And the catalogs are these upper level sections that describe the components that are in each section. So for example, there's a script catalog, there's a table catalog, there's a value list catalog. And so what's really cool about those catalogs is that they have attribution. They also have modification counts, they have username, account name, modifications, and timestamp. And unfortunately, all the attribution is kind of like, nah, you could do it. It's kind of a little bit of a, we can't do like real attribution, and it's complicated, but it's there. And if you, for example, if you change a script and you're the only person to have changed that script from, modifications 32 to 33, then the attribution is really you that changed that script. But sometimes if someone changes something and doesn't commit it into Inspector, and then there's another person who changes it and someone else, you lose the changes of the other people that have happened along the way, okay? So, yes? Yeah.
Is that coming from the plugin?
No, so that's it. Just the Save as XML is at,
No, what
yeah.
status?
What's your question?
How does it get to this commit dialog?
Oh, that's an integration that we install in the file. So basically, we have an add-on. You drag the add-on in. It adds a table. It adds a layout. It adds a few fields and a couple of scripts. Okay. And then when you call that add-on, all you have to configure is the solution number in Inspector. You tell it what solution this file belongs to, and then the add-on takes care of, because Save as XML is scriptable, so it can run on server. And so what the add-on does, it takes care of having you to write that script and everything, right? So it's going to create a directory. That directory is going to be where it's going to output all the XSL, all the XML for every single file that is part of that solution, right? And then what it does is once it's done that, then it says, hey, Inspector, I have an output that you need to process for this solution ID. And then it hands it over to Inspector, and Inspector takes care of the rest. Okay? You're welcome. So the main purpose that people use the DDR or Save as XML is really, they find references and dependencies. And so if you need to refactor a solution, you need to understand, like, hey, I have this script, it's still referenced on this layout, and if it's attached to this button, but you go look at the layout's not referenced anywhere. Okay, I probably can delete the script. Now you delete the script, you delete the layout. Now you've refactored your solution a little bit. You need to rerun it, right? So that it refreshes the information. Maybe there's some other information that might have been there that you need to kind of now be aware of, like what other references and dependencies that you might have. So one of the problems with the prior version of Inspector was that every time, I'll get to it in a second, actually. I'm not going to jump ahead. So there's different uses of the XML. Problem detection, detailed information. We had some visualizations as well. But one of the big benefits that we have versus some of the other tools like FM Perception is that we are a collaborative tool. We have a large team at our company, and what we do is it's not just one person developing one solution. Usually it's a team of people. And so we can host Inspector on a server, and then anybody who has access to the solution can make their commits and write them to the server. Just as you saw, Mercuria, Thais, Brendan, Christopher, myself, we're all contributing to adding or making changes to his file. We can see who's made those changes. So team collaboration, we have integration with Slack as we had before. We had some other features like manual references. We have ongoing notes. So you add a note to a script, and then if someone else adds notes to it, etc. Rather than write your notes inside the script, one can also opt to write the notes in Inspector. And then if you delete all your analyses and you start over, because those notes are connected by UUID, they will pick up where they left off. They will reconnect themselves to that specific script, etc., because it's by UUID. We have some automated capabilities. Because Save as XML is scriptable, you can write a script schedule. You can have your developers not worry about writing their commits. The script schedule every 5 minutes just picks up whatever changes are ready and writes them out. Attribution will still be there because attribution is associated with whenever a person saves what they changed. So you still benefit from that. And basically there's no interruption for a developer. A developer can just keep working, and your scheduled scripts will pick up whatever changes have happened every 5 minutes or every frequency that you want. And so we have some nice API integrations. We have 3 of them. You can manually upload your XML. You can have a call by API, like I was showing in the video. And the other one is by window name. Simply open up Inspector, type in the window name of a file that you have open, and then right away if you have that file open with full access, it'll output into a directory the XML, and then Inspector will process it. So that's the quickest way that you can pretty much use it right away. And there's so many other things. So from a workflow comparison, what we used to do is, you used to talk to the server and ask it for the DDR. The DDR would then come down to you. And so if it's on a WAN, it can be very slow. You have to get the whole DDR over here. And then what you do is you send it back to Inspector. And that's very long and laborious process. And it's just a waste of back and forth. And so download from the server, uploaded to Inspector, not able to be scripted, not server compatible, and very slow. Save as XML is actually worse than DDR, because the DDR had one progress dialog. Save as XML, the progress dialog looks like it's based on the catalogs. And so what happens is you'll start to see the progress dialog, and it goes and it goes and it goes, and then it gets to the end and it starts over. And you're thinking like, oh, okay, like how many catalogs are there in this file, right? So it's writing out every catalog. And so if you have if you don't have any custom functions, then you don't have a custom function catalog. You don't have any scripts, you don't have a script catalog. So you can have fewer catalogs, but what I'm saying is it's very, very slow if you do it over network. Not worth doing. You're better off scripting it and getting it deployed on the server. So it can be extremely slow. Again, save as XML. In version 8, The solution is opened by the user. They don't even have to open Inspector. They run the integration. They send the request to generate the XML, and that request then sends a request to run it on Inspector. And so this is literally like a second. You run it, it's out of your way, you can get back to work. Okay, so it's much faster. Saves XML is server compatible. There's an add-on. Comments can be added for each analysis, as you saw. And it doesn't need to be open either. Very, very fast on server. Okay, so this is Inspector 7. And so what used to happen is the first analysis would grab everything, right? All the scripts, all the fields, all the layouts, everything. And then when you want to run, you make some changes and you want to run another analysis, generate the whole DDR, and it would grab everything again. Over time, you have like, I don't know, 5 million, 6 million records, right, in Inspector, and that file can become very large. And the analyses will get slower because it's a lot more data. It's very, very huge. In version 8, so pay attention to the red area chart. This is version 8. Okay, so the first analysis is your baseline. Okay, so it's going to gobble up everything as it did before, right? And it actually runs 3 to 4 times faster than Inspector 7. But then every subsequent analysis is just a light touch point. It's like what got added, what got modified, what got deleted. If actually you're in a process of refactoring a lot of code, you're shrinking your solution. Inspector is a mirror image of what's in your solution, meaning that if you had 100 accounts and you chop down 50 of the accounts, get rid of them, Inspector is going to show only the 50 accounts that are left, and it's going to give you a history of like, okay, these are the accounts that this person deleted at this time or whatever. So again, if you go back, that's 7 and that's 8. 7, 8. Big, big difference. The other big difference is in 7, this was, let's say, 3 minutes. This is 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So like if you go back 3 minutes and 10 seconds, 20 seconds, by the time you're on the 100th analysis, it's 5 minutes. And so it keeps, and then the file gets bigger and bigger. In Inspector, this is a minute something. This is 5 seconds. This is 3 seconds. This is 10 seconds, and so on and so forth. Depending on how much changes you make, it's all it is the time to parse through the catalogs, find the changes, write out the changes, and you're done. So it's incredibly, incredibly fast. Okay, total time. We have here Inspector 7 versus 8. That's 7, that's 3 million records. After 100 analyses, you have items, calculations, and dependencies. Again, those are estimated counts. And this is Inspector. It's just going to be, again, a representation of your current state. Okay, it's a very important concept to kind of understand the big difference between the two. The baseline comparison. So this is measured in seconds. This is Inspector 7. This is Inspector 8. That's a baseline. It's 3 to 4 times faster, I believe, and 82% faster. Actually, in some cases, even up to 5 times faster. And then we have incremental is over 90%, 97% faster. That's because the incremental is only making changes incrementally to what's changed, whereas Inspector is doing everything for every single analysis. Inspector 7. All right. Major enhancements to 8. So the plugin has been kind of redesigned for even better performance. It's improved use of 64-bit and multi-threading. So like we have all these XSLs inside the file. When we get a solution and we got to parse everything, we write out all the XSLs and we tell the plugin to say parse all these XSLs. And it opens up a bunch of threads and it parses them all at once, and then we import them. We gobble them up. So the new architecture that we built using 2023. We are now officially switched over to Save as XML, and we are like, we are building a bridge from both sides. Claris is improving the XML, and we are building our bridge to use that XML. And our hope is that we'll get to a point where we can actually connect the two. There is work that's still ongoing in the Save as XML to fix a number of issues, which I'll cover in a little bit. But that we are officially moved over because what I have seen is that there's in some cases when they added new features, the DDR was not being updated. And that's what we use for Inspector 7. We relied on the DDR. And I'm like starting to see the writing on the wall that DDR at some point will be deprecated and are no longer useful. So I'm already moving forward with that. It's going to be subscription-based licensing, like the rest of the industry is, and we are finally switching over to that. You're going to have new insights from being able to analyze so frequently, etc. And we have history tracking, as you saw in some of the videos before. And the attribution thing, I can go into a lot of discussion about that. I don't know how much time we have. So this session ends at 2:30, right? Yeah? Okay. All right. So there's a lot of new capabilities that were not in DDR1. A couple of them are, like in DDR1, you never had table occurrence notes. We never had layout parts. We also have some new things that are coming, like a library. So you add an image. That image is a library reference. And so you'll see like, oh, I have an image. Where is that image reference? You'll see all the references to an image and how many references you have of that image, etc. So there's some really cool things that they're adding into the Save as XML. Here's some feature comparisons really quick. So again, I'll go through them really quickly. You can process on server, like version 7, version 8. We could do it in both. We had Slack integration. We still have it. We can attach notes to every item. We still have that. We'll also have the ability to attach tags to any item. So like you select a group of scripts and you want to say refactor or to do or whatever. You can mark all those scripts with a tag and then just search by tag. You have progressive updating. Basically the ability to keep in sync with your solution. That we weren't doing in Inspector 7. And this is what Inspector 8 is all about. It keeps in sync with your solution as long as you send the commits. If you don't send the commits, it's not going to stay in sync. So the more frequently you do it, the better it is, you know. InspectorPro has integration for different APIs. They're easy to install and configure. We didn't have that in Inspector 7. Local processing, we still do the same. So if you don't want to host Inspector, you can open it locally. You can type in the window names of whatever files you have open and basically just run it that way, generates the output. Or you could save the XML, put it all in a folder, and then manually be asked where's the folder for the XML, and it do it that way. So you can run it locally just like you could in 7. You can upload it for server processing. Both were the same. Process entirely on the server, meaning the XML is generated and processed on the server, only in 8. The API integration, only in 8. Add-on integration, only in 8. We've always been multi-user. Inspector 7 could be used by a team. They could all get in and see the solution. So 8 still carries forward that idea of multi-user support. Solution restricted to members. So we have this concept of users and members. So once you add a set of users, you can assign those users to a particular solution. So you have a large team like ourselves. We have a lot of people. Maybe some people work on this solution and some other people work on this other solution. Once you add them as members, they can only see the solution that they are a member of. Okay, so there's that management. We used to have restrict public and private in 7. We don't do that in 8 anymore. Again, we do it by membership. You're a member or not a member. We have time zone support in 8, which means that Christopher and Brendan are in Japan, I can see in my local time what commits they made in my time zone. So I can see it vis-a-vis my time zone. Okay, so there's that. We have deletion of a solution that is granted to specific users when you add them. So you can say this user can manage solutions, which means they can create new solutions, reset them, delete them. As long as they're the owner of the solution, they can manage that all themselves. Okay. And then reset. And then we have Slack at mentions, which is, let's see if it's covered in the next thing. Yeah. You have to speak loud because. Yeah. Both, yes. Oh, that's a typo. Yeah, so actually, yes, because the solution can be deleted by a user if they've given access. I think it's just the orange is just to indicate that it's working differently. Okay, so I think that's the point of it. Subscription-based licensing, that's new to 8. Unlimited number of solutions, that's also possible in both 7 and 8. Unlimited number of analyses, only limited by disk space, as they said. So you can, in 7, if you had 100 analyses of a production system, your file is going to get really huge. It's going to be very big. In 8, it's going to be a representation of what you have. Plus, they run literally in a few seconds. So it's not it's not how would you say? It's not impossible that you could have 100 analyses in one day alone, right? Because you could have a lot of commits from different people. If you're really under pressure, you need to do a lot of work. And so in 8, you might have thousands of analyses for a solution. The interface in 8 is solution-based and not solution and analysis-based. So you select a solution, and you see everything about that solution. Behind the scenes, you have hundreds or thousands of analyses that are being collected. So it's got a little bit of different focus in that interface. There's a whole hour I could give just on this piece here. In 7, there used to be this kind of hidden area, not many people know about it, but we normalize data from all different perspectives. So we'll look at functions, and we'll give you a list of all the functions and all the references to the functions. We'll look at scripts, we'll look at script triggers. We have, I think, over 140 different aspects of the DDR or the XML that is normalized for you. So for example, storage, calculations that are stored versus unstored. Show me all the calculations that I have that are unstored. Sure, you could go to fields and do a search, but this gives you that ability to just click a button and see the list of all the places where you have fields that are unstored. Again, there's a long list, and that is still present in this version. The one difference is we are kind of creative in the way that we do this, because when you create a solution, we right away load all the extra areas behind the scenes. So it's done on server, PSOS, don't wait. That is a piece that doesn't take very long, but it's actually like an optimization improvement, because in 7, that piece was done at every analysis. Load up all the extra areas and then parse them for all the dependencies and references that you have for each of those items. So anyway, that's in both 7 and 8. Sorry, well, 2 last ones here. So we have history and history items, which are only in 8. And then we have baseline analysis, which we had in both. But this is actually 3 or 4 times faster. So we have this other thing that we're working on. I don't know. I don't think we'll be able to get as detailed as we'd like with watched items. But what that is let's say like we have an integration with AWS for S3 buckets, and one person is the the knowledge keeper of like how that script is written, how it works, etc. Don't mess with my script, okay? Like if you mess with my script, I will be very upset because then I have to go fix it. So we have a way for that person to say, I want to watch this script. If anybody changes it, I want to be alerted. Okay, a Slack notification will be sent to that person or email. And so there's a lot of really in-depth ways that we can do that. But I think we're going to just start off really simple, and we'll look for feedback from the community on how to improve that. And then in Inspector 7, we had that beautiful graphical interface where every analysis is like a bar, and then problems are like this line chart that you can burn down the problems. Because Inspector 8 can have so many analyses, we are refactoring that visualization to take into account. We still want that visualization at a very high level, that you can see changes, are you improving code, are you reducing code, are you reducing your problems, etc. So the dashboard will still make an appearance. All right. The numbers speak for themselves, but the images will kind of tell a different story as well. Inspector 7, 339 tables. Inspector 8 does so much more, is so much faster. It comes in at 242 tables. Table occurrences, 678 versus 245. But this one is the real killer. This is relationships. We were able to get it down to 14 relationships in 8 from 438. The graph in 7 looks like this. This is the graph of Inspector in Inspector 7. The graph in 8 looks like this. And there are actually 2 or 3 of these table relationships that we are actually removing. So from 14, we'll be down to 12. So at some point, we'll be down to almost no relationships. So it's an incredible, we're very, very proud of how we have simplified a lot of this and made it so that you guys can stay in the flow and keep up to date with what's happening. Okay, so now we're moving on to some of the known issues. And I want to bring this up with you because you will be my friends. And the reason I say that is because you will tell Claris, like, hey, we need to get you guys to fix these things because we need a tool like this in our day-to-day development. So in the DDR1, if you had a button and it had a script that was broken, you had a thing in the DDR that said perform script unknown. I don't know what the script, but it was there. And when we picked up the XML, we found it and we reported a problem. Beautiful. In save as XML, the script is unknown, but it's gone. And the reason for that is the different consumers of this XML, like add-on, update tool, they don't want to insert problems in your solution, so they remove the problems. That's great for them, but not great for us, right? That's a real problem in a sense. Pardon the pun. And I've already spoken to Clay and Rick and Robert about this, and Clay said, "Okay, yes, it's a problem, and what we will do, hopefully this is the way they'll do it, is when you say save as XML, there'll be another attribute, detailed or light or for add-on or for whatever. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the one way they're going to bring back this functionality, which is there's a problem, we leave it there, we output it, you deal with it whatever way you want. But right now, this is a major problem if we don't have this, because we don't have a way to find the problems that get suppressed. Okay. Any questions about this? Yeah.
Do we have an indication of how long we can actually use those tools?
Yeah, so there are differences between the two. There are some new things that we never had before, right? and like catalogs and table occurrence notes. This is an omission or an intended suppression of errors because they have different consumers of save as XML output, right? But they're aware of it. Again, it's one of these things where, like, from an inspector point of view, I think 60% of errors will be able to detect whether this is happening or not. Okay, but the ability to have this is crucial to get the other 40% of errors to be reported. And I think, there's some, like I talked to Douglas yesterday, and there is some effort to complete those other tools, save as update tool, add-on update or whatever. And so they're working in this XML. And so that would be the ideal time to say, fix this as well, okay? And I had meetings, I presented this, but people like you who know people at Claris can say, this is really important, please address this as well. Otherwise, our tool cannot really properly function. So that's one issue. The other issue is, a layout depends on a custom menu set. It's just an omission. In DDR1, that custom menu reference is there, custom menu set reference is in there. In Save as XML, it's just not there. It's a very simple thing. It's just missing. It's not there. So there was a lot of stuff like this in the early beginnings of me switching over to Save as XML. I sent a lot of bug reports to Claris. They fixed a lot of things. But there's still some lingering issues. There's some interesting behaviors. There's legacy behaviors. When you have a field in a schema and you go and you make a change to that field name, if you have that field on a layout, FileMaker, once it saves the schema, will look to the layout and say, oh, this field has this label. Let me update the label. It's very nice of them, but the problem is I make changes to the schema catalog, and now I'm seeing catalog changes in the layout when I never touched the layout. Those are indirect changes. It wouldn't be so bad if they were really good at it. The problem is they're really bad at it. And I talked to Claire about this, and he says, this is real legacy behavior, and they probably will remove this at some point. You know how you go into schema and you make changes, and then you get this dialog at the end, and it says, updating all layouts, or, and you can skip it, right? That's what it's doing. Okay, so I delete a field. The worst one is the deleting of the field. Where's that one? Field that is not on the layout was deleted. Okay, so is on the layout was deleted. So this one here. So these numbers are the modification counts. Okay, the catalog and of the layout. So I have 5 different layouts. I have a modification count of the catalog is 30. It goes from 30 to 6. Just in one save of deleting that schema out of there, because it has updates for every one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it does another one just to be on the safe side. I don't know what it's doing. Okay. But the side effect is this layout was at 9 modifications, it got 2. This was the layout I was on, so it got 2 modifications of that layout. So that's probably what this number is. It's got 2 of those, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this layout was, and the field and the label are gone. This other layout also had that field on there. Field and label are left on the layout. Field and label are gone. Field and label are left on the layout. Field and label are gone. So it's like heads, tails, I don't know. Like the logic, I don't understand. But legacy behavior, very high likely potential that it will be removed, which means that whenever you save as XML, we're not going to get false positives and say, oh, layout catalog changed. Let me look through all the layouts. No, there's no layout changes, or there are layout changes, but some of them get updates, some of them don't, but I never went to layout mode to make those changes. Very important point. Okay, so Inspector 8. So dramatically different approach, new capabilities. We still need work on save as XML. Problem suppression needs to be addressed, and there's a lot of future opportunities and enhancements. We have a long list of ideas to add to what our foundation is building on. Yes? Yeah, so all the objects in Save as XML have UUIDs. And so if you add an object to a layout, it will have its own UUID. And it also has a layout object hash, right? So instead of a modification count, it has a hash. So that means if you have 100 objects on a layout, we can scan through the objects and say, oh, this is a new object, this is a modified object, this is a deleted object. Okay, so only the things, it's not going to do all of the objects. It's just going to do the ones that are there that got added or deleted. Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Yes?
Not object calculations.
Yeah, so that's a good point you bring up with calculations. Inspector 7 normalized calculations into a table, its own table. So you could search in one place for all calculations, okay? In Inspector 8, we started off with this idea that we're going to put all the calculations in all the places where the calculations are. But then we realized, like, Inspector 7 was better because the calculations are normalized in one place. And so what we did is we split them back out into its own table, okay? They have a hash for the calculation. So the hash will tell us also if the calculation changes. So, so yes, there is, all the calculations are going to be the same as Inspector 7. They will be in one table, and you can quickly link, or we will show all the calculations related to like a layout object. So for example, a layout object can have a tooltip, can have a placeholder calc, it can have a hide condition calc, it can have a conditional formatting, although that's, you know, there's...
New layout object calculation.
Oh yeah, that'll be added. That's also a bug. They added the layout calculation, but they just output the text. And unfortunately, like when you output a calculation, you also have to put the chunks of the calculation, which are like there's a script reference, there's a field reference, there's, you know, all those components, right? And though that's an issue that they need to fix, but it will support it. It will support it. Yes, Hansa. Huh?
Does it mean that
Yep. Yep. Yeah, so when you copy and paste a calculation that has a slightly different spacing or something like that, it will get a different hash. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas in terms of, you know, could we look at the unique hashes and see like, hey, there's 3,000 calculations that use the same hash. You know, maybe we should turn that into a custom function or something. You know, like there's some things that I think as a community we might evolve and find interesting uses of the calculation hash. So so again, you are the first people to see this preview. The goal is to have this ready for Claris Engage in February. As you saw in the video, it's running. We still have a lot of work to do, but you know, we have a good solid foundation and we're building on top of that. So, so sign up for the beta and we will notify you as soon as the beta is available, and then you can play around with it directly. Yes? No, the same.
How this is managed?
The baseline is the first analysis. That's just the baseline by default. So you create a solution, And actually, let me show you here. What? Oh, I mean, when you start, like, so basically, I can't go back in time, unfortunately. I don't have that capability. So I can't analyze your baseline from 2 years ago.
But if it has XMLs, could you then?
If you saved as XML,
Well, if you got many backup versions,
Actually,
you could.
my question is simpler than that.
Yeah.
If I do a save as
Well, if you had Inspector today, and you did it today, you're same as XML. Your first analysis would be your baseline. Any subsequent analysis after that is incremental. I can show one other thing here. Let's see if I can do it here. We're almost at time. Geez. Oh yeah, the timestamp. They got rid of the timestamp. Yeah, so we take advantage of that because when we run it, that's the first thing we check. They check the hash of the file. Okay, no changes, nothing to do. Less than a second, it's done. And especially if you have like this analysis here, this meeting solution has 245 analyses. A lot of them are because we have a schedule that runs every hour and just checks like, has anything changed? Has anything changed? And like if you look at that, so that's all the history, sorry. We look at all analyses. So all these ones here, these are scheduled events. There's no changes, no comments added, no changes. Over here, this is a manual submission, 10 additions, 6 modifications, 3 deletions, 0.6 seconds. 6 changes, half a second, and then so on and so forth, right? So those are all the different commits, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah, no, because every file is its own file. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you can have 10 XML files, and it's resolved by the external data source name. If you have to have the external data source name be the name of the file that it refers to. That's the only way to link them. There's no more summary file. So if you change that, then it messes things up. Yes.
a multi-file solution, especially when you reference.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any recommendations? Here and here.
Yeah, I mean, a person came to my booth today, and they weren't aware of one thing. So like, if you look at field references, on these 2 columns are the dependencies and references of every single item. Every single table has a dependencies and references column. So if you want to go see like this item here, this XML generated field, right, has what is that? 12 references. I can click on there, and I'll get a list of all the places it's referenced. So that field is referenced on a button label calculation calc. These green buttons say it's a target, means that data in that field is being modified. So there's different ways that you can see the references, but in your case, if it's another file, you'll see what file it's in. Okay, so you can see that it's coming from another file, and it's used in this script, in this file, or whatever, you know? So, yeah. All right, I think, any other questions? Well, hopefully when this tool is ready and Claris has built the bridge and we met in the middle, then yeah, I would say yes, go for it. Right now, the new tool is not available. We hope to have it available in the early part of next year, which is coming very quickly. And Claris needs to do their part. I mean, we'll release it anyway, you know, and then we would love for you to put pressure on them because I'm tired of bugging them with my requests. So, you know, you'll get it. You'll see how great it is, and it could be better. You just say, hey, you know, could you please fix these other issues? Again, I talked to Douglas. There's an effort happening, and before the end of this year, to get these other Save as XML consumers handled. And so he's going to kind of grab my requests in as well. So hopefully, they're in an agile process. So hopefully, it'll happen soon. So anyway, that's where. Even if those, yeah. You'll still be getting good results. However, some problems I just won't be able to tell you. Custom menu set references, they might be references, they don't have them, I don't have them, nothing I can do about it. But you know, it's just hopefully as a community we can report those, they'll get them addressed, and they have new people too. David McKee was the kind of main developer for the XML. He has now 2 people working under him or with him, I don't know, but he's now delegating. So there's other people working on it. And it's a big deal for them because it's not just for third-party developers. It's for other things that they need to get done. So they will be investing energy into it. Yeah, yes?